I'm John Twist of University Motors, and today I'm redoing one of my very earliest YouTube productions. It was done, the original one was done about 1999, I think it's video number 5, about how the all-synchro gearbox, 1968 through 1980, MGB, MGC, and MGB GTV8, how this gearbox works. And at the time we were limited to about 7 minutes of YouTube, and the files had to be real small. Since then, God knows, YouTube is copied, and the quality of the original video has degraded, even though it wasn't as good as this one is to start off with. So anyway, this gearbox is a durable, heavy-duty gearbox. It's the most wonderful gearbox that MG ever made. It is, it just is without equal. Nothing goes wrong with them. Well, I say nothing goes wrong with them, but no matter who you meet who's got MG parts, they always have an extra gearbox around because very, very few people need them. Yeah, there's some stuff that goes bad. If you run it without oil, well, duh, it's going to fail. And the synchro rings inside burst. Sometimes the reverse gear wears real badly. It's hard to get it into reverse. Other than that, oh man, this thing is just great. So let's go through and take a look at it and see how it works. The car's sitting still. In the rear flange, which is connected to the drive shaft, which is connected to the rear axle. The car's sitting still, and your foot's off the clutch, the engine's spinning, then all this stuff inside the gearbox is spinning. Now it looks like there's a lot going on here, but it's just idling. Nothing's carrying any motion. It's just turning. So we've got one piece up here, the first motion shaft. That in turn drives the lay gear, which is one great big long gear with 5 individual gears on it, the engagement for the first motion shaft, then the third gear, the second gear, the first gear here at the back, and then in the middle with the coarse cut teeth, those are the reverse gears, spur gears, real noisy. So again, we're sitting here idling. This guy's turning. So there are 26 teeth on the first motion shaft and 28 teeth on the lay gear, I think. So the lay gear is going 26 28ths as fast as the first motion shaft, and that's turning as quickly as the engine. These other gears have got different gear ratios. So let's say that the engine's still and you're pushing the car, okay? So now the rear axle is moving, the drive shaft is moving, and only this very few combination of components is turning. We've got a reverse wheel up here. We've got the first, second sliding hub here. And we've got the third, fourth sliding hub here. So, car's sitting still, engine spinning. This is all turning. Engine's not turning. The car is moving. You're pushing it, something or other. It's coasting. And this is turning. So the question is, how do we get this motion into this motion? We simply put it in gear. So the sliding hub slips over these little tiny engagement teeth on the first gear. So the inside of this gear has got splines. This is splined. So we put it in first gear, easy for me to do. And now when we turn the clutch disc, because the engine's running, now the first gear is turning and carrying the motion. And since the third, fourth hub, the 1-2 hub, and the reverse gear are always turning at the same speed, you can see that these gears, and therefore the main shaft, is turning as quickly as the first gear is turning. There's no difference here in the speed of these two gears. And how fast is the main shaft turning? Well, we got 26 over 28 here, and we've got 13 over 32 teeth here. So you put those two together, it's just a mathematical equation, and we end up with about a quarter as fast as the engine's turning. If we want to go into second gear, we simply pull it out of second, or pull it out of first, put it in second, and now we can see that the main shaft is turning more quickly than the first gear. See how this reverse gear is moving more quickly than the first gear. And this guy is hard to tell. This guy moving, of course, is moving the same speed as the second speed gear. And you can see matching these two gears together. This is the third speed gear. This is going a little bit faster, but we're carrying the motion now from the engine to the lay gear, from the second gear on the lay gear up to the second speed gear, and from there to the main shaft. If we want to engage third gear, now this is not carrying any motion, but the main shaft is now carrying the motion of the third speed gear. And you can see that third gear is moving a lot more quickly than second. It's still not moving as quickly as fourth. And if you contrast these two gears, this is the speed of the main shaft. This gear and this gear are turning at the same speed. Finally, in fourth gear, we don't use the lay gear at all. Sometimes that's called the counter shaft or the counter gear. In British, it's called the lay gear. Now the motion from the engine is straight through to the main shaft. And now, even though these are all spinning, there's no motion being transferred through these. There's no energy being passed through these gears. And how fast does this actually go? I've got a bolt here at the back end of the gearbox. He's at 12 o'clock, and I got my handle here at 12 o'clock. So if we put him in first gear, and we give one full turn in, you can see that I got 1/4 of a turn out. In second gear, if I put one turn in, I get 2/4 out. This continues to work like this. In third gear, if I put one turn in, I get 3/4 of a turn out. And in fourth gear, of course, we're straight through. One turn in equals one turn out. If you have overdrive, one turn in, 5/4 out. It's an increase again of about 25%. So what are synchronizers? Let's take a look at a synchro balking ring here. Here's the balking ring that sits on a conical face on the speed gear. And as you begin to change the gear, this center sliding hub has got a little bit of free play, not much, but it pushes up against this balking ring, and now the sliding hub, the speed gear, and the balking ring are all fastened together, jammed together momentarily, long enough for you to complete the gear change. If you hesitate, take too long to pull it in, it'll start to grind. This is very different from an early Bug-Eye Sprite or a T-type, which the longer you take to change gears, the smoother the gear change is. Here, you want to make the gear change quickly into second, like that. And sometimes, it hasn't happened here, but trying to get one of these balking rings to stick. There it is. It's just come loose again. But they jam. The balking ring, the inside of the balking ring is on a cone, and the external face of the speed gear is a cone. And as they jam together, they hold just briefly. That's the synchro ring, the balking ring. The only thing that happens on this gearbox, 68 through 80, is the balking ring breaks. The circle that the balking ring makes breaks, and then when it slips down on the conical face, it doesn't grab anything, it just expands. Doesn't do anything. There is an internal oiling system here. So as the car's running, there's a lot of oil. I mean, we're filled right to here. Oh, how did I make this box? I took a skill saw, and very deftly put it down here, not with any guts inside, of course, but with an empty case, and just ran it along. You can see here the slits where the saw blade overran my cut in the front. And then I polished the edges. This used to look a lot nicer, 10, 15 years ago. It looked pretty sweet. Although if I did this in 99, it's almost 25 years ago. That's sobering. Anyway, talk about the oil. As this thing's running, oil's splashing all up onto the inside, and there's a trough on the inside. Can't see it. There's a trough. Well, if you get down and look real carefully, you can. But there's a trough, and that trough rolls the oil back into a spiral oil pump. That spiral oil pump pushes the oil into the interior of the main shaft, and it exits underneath all these speed gears, because these speed gears are all going at different speeds in relation to the main shaft. So you've got to have oil down in there. The earlier gearboxes didn't have this. The MGA gearbox did. The T-type doesn't. The Sprigget and Midget 1500 gearboxes don't. The Triumph boxes don't until later. So that's how this is done. Now we haven't talked about reverse yet. So there's yet another gear on my side of the gearbox, which you can engage, and it engages this tooth, the main shaft here, and the lay gear here. So when we turn the engine clockwise, as seen from the front, the main shaft is in reverse. So to do that calculation, we've got this gear versus the reverse gear, and then the reverse gear versus the reverse wheel, and of course all that's predicated on the speed of the engine, the speed of the lay shaft. So there's three individual fractions that you have to multiply. But it's just math. Back here we've got a speedo gear that comes out of the gearbox right down here, and that measures how many times the main shaft turns. So if you're changing your differential ratio, you have to account for that up on the speedo. There are two different speedos. One speedo clocks from 1968 through 1974 at 1,280 turns per mile. You can see that number displayed on the face of the speedo down around 5 o'clock on the right at the very base of the speedo. And then from 1974 and a half rubber bumper through 1980, it's clocked at 1,000 turns per mile. You get the wrong speedo and you're reading, quarter high or a quarter low. So this is the gearbox. We've got a reverse light switch which can fit into here. We've got a detent plunger here that sometimes, I can engage reverse here very easily because I took the detent plunger out. But I just had a guy talk to me a week ago, 2 weeks ago, said, I can't get my car in reverse. I pull and pull and pull and I can't get it to go in reverse. I said, have you tried slapping it? Slapping it? Well, no. I said, well, try that. He called me back up and he said, oh my gosh, it's easy now, but you have to slap it. Sometimes you got to slap it so hard it hurts your hand. That's no good. So you can take this guy out, 5/8 wrench, take him out, oil him all up, put him back in. Once in a blue moon, it's the reverse light switch, which jams up and causes a problem. So this is a pretty straightforward gearbox. There's a breather on top so it doesn't pressurize on the inside. There's a seal on the front, there's a seal on the back. Those go bad over a long period of time. You should use either engine oil, 2050, that's what the workshop manual calls for, or John Esposito at Quantum Mechanics says, oh my gosh, be sure to use 30 weight non-detergent. And in one of our Zoom calls he was on, and I said, so what's the scoop with the non-detergent? He says, well, he says, you know, the detergent oil can foam, okay, because it's got detergent in it. And if you've got overdrive, it can cause problems with the overdrive, getting consistent oil pressure, that 450 pounds per square inch you have to make the hydraulics work. I've never encountered that myself, but he suggests 30 weight non-detergent. Workshop manual says engine oil, 2050. But you don't have to put the high zinc oil, the expensive oil in this. You can just nap a good oil, and it'll be okay. We've drained out everything from automatic transmission fluid to 90 weight gear oil. Better to have any oil than no oil. So that's it. It's a pretty straightforward gearbox. If you got any questions, you can always call me at University Motors. You can find me online at universitymotors.online. And if you've got any questions about this gearbox or any other of the videos that you watch, give me a call. Make sure to go to our website and look at the top ribbon where it says join our newsletter. Then you'll get the information about our semi-monthly, I wouldn't say bi-weekly, but 2 months out of the year. We only do it twice a month, a Zoom session. Twice a month you get an invitation to those Zoom sessions. So until then, drive your car, make sure you got enough oil, safety fast.